On October 6th, 2010, I played Team Fortress 2 for the first time ever. That's exactly 10 years ago. And just 1 week ago, this channel officially hit 100,000 subscribers. It's been crazy, it's been a crazy ride. If you had gone back 10 years ago and told little me that I would have 100,000 subscribers making primarily Team Fortress 2 videos on YouTube, I'd be like, yeah, I believe it. And I do have a giveaway planned, and I am going to be opening that TF2 box that I said I would for 100k. Except now there are two of them. There are two big expensive TF2 boxes. I don't know how that happened. They're multiplying. Unfortunately, those videos won't be out until later in October because at the time you're watching this, I'm actually not home. So thank you guys for being there. I couldn't have done it without you, obviously, unless I made 100,000 alt accounts, but that's a little bit too much work. So this video is going to be a little bit different because instead of discussing a specific TF2 topic, I'm just going to talk about 10 years worth of TF2 memories with someone who's been playing with me almost that whole time.
And that's me, SquimJim, aka Squim's greatest friend for over 10 years now. It's been a long ride, but today we're going to tell you how we got started, and I'm going to hand it back to Squim to let you know how we got into Team Fortress 2 specifically. I
got the game because my brother got it for me in October of 2010. But before that, the first time I had heard about the game was, I'm pretty sure, when we got the orange box for my brother for Christmas of 2007 when it first came out. Well, a few months after it first came out. And I'm pretty sure I remember going to GameStop with my mom to get the orange box. And I didn't really think that much of it after that because my brother has lots of games. It was just another game he had. But,
he was just a collector of games.
Oh yeah, he had tons of games. And I think he was more or less just starting to get into PC gaming at that time. And so I never really saw him play it, but he did get into it a lot after that. Like around 2008, 2009, he was really into Team Fortress 2, and 2010 too. And we used to share a room, and by the GameCube, we always had the orange box, and I would look at the back, and every time I saw the pyro on the back, I always thought pyro looked like a monkey, because in Time Splitters 2, there's a monkey, and me and my sister used to play the game all the time, and we would
You're just a monkey.
Yeah,
that's all you need to know.
The monkey was really fast, and we'd always put the flamethrower on the monkey because he could run around and burn everybody. It was great. But that's why I always thought Pyro looked like a monkey on that box.
That's actually the secret of the Pyro, you know? Everybody wonders about its gender. There's no gender. It's just monkey.
I'm pretty sure monkeys have genders.
Alright. Continue.
Anyway, and after that, I think this must have been around the spring of 2009, when the Scout update had more or less just happened, in the February beforehand. I remember being at my grandma's house, and me and my brother were doing yard work there, and he was just telling me about how the Scout got what he described as a new sawed-off shotgun, which is the Force Nature. He was telling me like what it did and all that stuff, and I'm like, whoa, that sounds cool. And I'm asking him like whether it's better or not than the stock weapons, and he's like, no, they're kind of like, you know, side grades and stuff. And he was telling me about how Scout could capture things at 2 times speed, and I was always just imagining in my head that he was like splitting into 2 people doing it, like pushing it when he's pushing the car, he was 2 people doing it. And I guess I had known what TF2 was. I think I could probably picture the characters, but like I wasn't super aware of it. And then at that time, probably around 2009ish too, I was super into Bionicles. I mean, I was always into Bionicles, but I was watching a bunch of Bionicle videos on YouTube, you know, all the time.
Nerd.
But this was before Meet the Spy came out, okay? So there was a fan-made Meet the Spy video. It was an animated video using voice clips from the game. And I'll show a picture here, you might recognize it. And someone who had recreated that video with their Bionicles, and that's what I watched it. I'm like, whoa, this is funny. You know, they had like their heavy, they made a Bionicle that looked kind of like heavy, and he was doing the heavy lines and stuff, and I'm like, this is cool. This is funny stuff. And I had known it was Team Fortress 2, but again, I didn't know that much about it.
Right, I was about to ask you, did you even have any sort of context or familiarity with what was going on, or was it just a story to you that...
No, I mean, like, especially at that time, I mean, TF2 has always had a very big impact on the internet in terms of, like, you know, I guess memes and stuff. You know, there was always lots of TF2 memes floating around, so even if you didn't necessarily know what TF2 was, you probably were aware of it through the memes and stuff. Even now, today, people who might not know what TF2 is know it through the memes. But,
fair point.
And then, not much later, maybe around 2000, definitely 2010, my brother, he was just like, at one time, randomly, he's like, hey, come here, watch this, and he was actually showed me the real Meet the Spy for the first time. This is the first Meet the Team video I ever saw, and I'm like, wow, this is great, this is funny stuff.
Quality content.
Yeah, and then after that, we watched Meet the Soldier, and I'm like, this is good stuff, and he's like, you should play this game, and I'm like, maybe I will. So,
maybe I will.
Yeah.
Don't try me.
And then later that year, in October, he's like, make a Steam account, and I'm like, okay. And I remember his girlfriend at the time being like, "Oh yeah, make a Steam account because Team Fortress 2 is on sale." And he's like, "Shh, no, don't tell." Because my birthday is in October, so he was kind of gonna get that for me for my birthday because back in the day, Team Fortress 2 used to cost $20. It was on sale for $10, and being the cheapskate he was, he would only buy stuff on sale.
But I gotta ask Squim, because as you may or may not know, this game is rated M.
Oh yeah.
So how old are you?
I was just a wee lad playing this game, a wee lad. Not 18 years old, though I'm sure many of the people watching this are not 18 years old either.
It's fine. We won't tell anyone.
No, we won't tell. How old were you when you first got the game?
Only slightly older than you.
That's true.
Believe it happened, 3 months later?
Yes. Well, right after getting the game, I was, super into it. I was playing it all the time. And
Naturally.
in school, I was obviously, I think I must have been talking to you about it a bunch. And, I distinctly remember being in gym class and I was just talking to you about all, like, the achievements I had gotten over the weekend and, like, new weapons and stuff I'd gotten. And you were interested in it. And we probably watched the Meat Team videos and stuff.
As you could tell, we were very into gym class.
And then after the Australian Christmas update of 2011, TF2 went on sale again for $10. Like, it usually did around updates. And I was planning on getting it for Squib for Christmas, and then the sale ended. But I ended up spending the whole $20 and got it for him in January of 2011.
What a great guy. Yeah. Hey man, I appreciate it. Because if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't have gotten my start on YouTube. Little known information, right? Low key, we'll get to that later in the video.
And when you first got the game, you were playing on a laptop using your mouse trackpad thingy.
You see, for the longest time, I was a console gamer. I just never even touched the computer. I had no idea what PC gaming was. I didn't know what that world was like, nor did it really interest me because most of my friends at the time were on Xbox or PlayStation, so that was my bread and butter. It wasn't until I got Team Fortress 2 that I really started taking interest in PC gaming, but as Squim mentioned, I was on a trackpad, so it wasn't like I was super devoted. It wasn't until much later that I really got into it.
Yeah, you kind of came in and out in Team Fortress 2 like over the years, where you still have a lot of hours. Like how many hours do you have? 2,000?
I did rack up 2,000 hours by now.
But for me, I've always consistently played TF2 since I got it. I don't think I've gone more than a month without playing the game. I mean, even that's usually just because I'm not home. But I've played it basically since I got it. And well, going back to when you first got the game. I don't know if you remember, but the first time we ever played, for some reason I took you to an arena server, and it was Arena Watchtower, and you were doing terribly because you're using a mousepad thing. And then some guy joins. It's a completely empty server. It was just us two. And even back then, when there actually were arena servers, it was not a popular game mode.
We're just minding our own business at this point.
And then this guy comes in, he starts making fun of you. He's like, "Has this guy never played a game before? Because you're doing terribly." And I'm like, "Wow, funny stuff."
It was only us two.
Yeah, and then more people started showing up and he was still making fun of us.
And the ridicule just kept going. Yeah. Emotionally scarred me for life, by the way. I still carry that.
I wonder where he is now.
Yeah, I'm sure he's watching.
Probably watching. There he is. Hi.
What's up, guy? Thanks for making fun of me, but look at where we ended up now. Yeah. Joke's on you, I guess.
The weird thing is, the first map I ever played online was Arena Lumberyard, and I don't know why. It was probably just a random map, and I just this is right when I got the game. I played the training a little bit, and then I just hop into Arena Lumberyard. I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing, and I just quit before killing anybody, before seeing anybody. I just quit. Also, I mean, I didn't have that much better of equipment when I first started playing the game. Maybe even slightly worse in some ways. I was using my mom's pre-built, crummy desktop computer.
You did have a mouse.
Yes, I did have a mouse.
Slight advantage.
But I had to use one of those mods that made the game look like trash so I could play it.
The Minecraft mode.
Yeah, and I remember playing on CP Orange all the time for some reason, just because it was there, and I got used to it.
Okay.
And I remember the mod for some reason made the sapper just appear as kind of like a white box with no textures in it. It was just a white box that kind of resembled the sapper. So I didn't really know what it was. And I remember asking my brother, I thought it kind of looked like a radio. So I'm like, does this let you hear what the other team is saying? And he's like, no, I let you sap buildings. I'm like, oh.
We can hear all of them spamming medic. That's what we get out of it.
But no, that's not what the sapper does, in case you didn't know. After that, oh wait, you got a story. Why don't you tell us about your very first hat drop?
This is a quality story because it actually ends in tragedy. Well, not entirely. I mean, I was happy with the outcome until Squim ruined it for me because he told me the truth of what had happened. So, to make a long story long, I'll just tell you straight up. I was playing on 2 Fort one day and, casually just learning the game because I was still fairly new to it. And what had happened was, at one point after dying, I had found a hat. This hat just so happened to be the Tough Guy's toque. I didn't really think much of it. I thought, okay, it's a cosmetic item. We didn't even call them cosmetics at the time. It was just a hat, and I thought, yeah, this thing's worthless. It doesn't do anything. It doesn't make me better at the game. I will just stash it away for now. It wasn't until a few deaths later that I saw the death cam of another player, and I noticed that he was turning invisible. And not only that, but I noticed that, this guy was a spy. I noticed that he was standing still and regaining cloak. This concept to me was completely foreign. I was blown away by it. Moreover, I'm pretty sure at the time I didn't even realize you could turn invisible as a spy. So I just thought that this was a whole new mechanic to the game that I was missing out on this entire time. And being the sneaky young guy that I was, I felt like I could really, make advantage of this and get a couple kills. As it would turn out, in my quick thinking, I quickly asked him to trade me his cloak and dagger for my newly acquired item, because at the time it was one of the few things that I had to offer. I really didn't have anything. I had asked him for the cloak and dagger in exchange for my tough guy's toque. Naturally, he was inclined to say yes. He didn't even say a word about it, he just was like, yeah, let's go through with this. And so we did, and I played a couple hours after that, the cloak and dagger. It was a good time, albeit until Squim ruined it by telling me my fatal flaw, the mistake that I had made.
It's that hats are worth a lot more than weapons.
Especially at that time.
Oh yeah, at that time, it's kind of hard to imagine now because it's like over 1,000 hats, but there's a very small fraction of hats that there are now. And hats in general were worth significantly more than they are now. Like for example, a hat like that is worth maybe 1.33 refined, something like that. And keys are worth like, 50 refined, something like that now? At the time, keys were worth 2.33 refined, and obviously hats were worth just a lot more too. And yeah, he traded that all for one weapon.
Yes, but I'm not the only one who got scammed here, okay? So let's talk about your first hat experience, because although it is a little better than mine, you made out better than I did, it is still to a similar effect.
All right. Much like your first hat drop, it happened very soon after playing the game, within a week. I remember being on CP Orange again, and I found Z goggles for the medic. And even the description on that weapon says nothing, because it's a Simpsons reference there, but it just says nothing. And I'm like, all right, I knew what it was. I knew it was a hat. I knew it really didn't do anything. I just went to my medic loadout and equipped it. And I'm like, okay. And then I told my brother, he's like, oh, that's a medic hat.
See, that was more than I did. I didn't even put it on.
You didn't even wear it once? Well, all right.
And I still haven't to this day.
I'll get you one.
Thank you, man.
All right. So I got Z goggles, and I told my brother about it. He's like, all right, okay. And then he's like, I'll give you some weapons for it. And he traded me like 6 weapons for that hat. And they were vintage weapons though, because those vintage weapons have just kind of been swapped over to vintage in the main economy update. So it wasn't that bad of a deal in the long run, because those weapons are worth slightly more now. But I still got scammed by my very own brother. You got scammed by a stranger.
See, the stranger is a little better because, I had no emotional connection. But your brother?
Yeah, I'm still mad about it. He's still got it in his inventory now.
Nah. But we will talk about the fact that I got you a real life tough guy's toque.
Because it's kind of become a running gag over the past 10 years that I will not let Squib forget that he traded his very first hat for a very common weapon. That wasn't even that good at the time. It was buffed later on.
It was genuinely trash. No, it was fine, but I mean, as far as blunders, early game blunders, nothing much after that until much later in my Team Fortress experience when I started gambling. But we'll get to that in a little bit.
So our first year really playing Team Fortress 2 together was 2011, and 2011 was a pretty crazy time for TF2 because there were updates constantly, like big updates, which is probably a pretty foreign concept to some of you people. But unfortunately, it's true. But like 2011 had more updates than any other year, so it was an interesting time to start. And the first like big one though was the Uber update, and that was actually on our last day at school. Do you remember that? So cool. Yeah. And so it's like we were just talking on Steam after that. We were just refreshing the page every night just to see the new pages. It was crazy.
What do you kids know about that? You ever just stay up and refresh the update page?
They don't know about updates.
Exactly.
I remember there were so many weapons in that update that it took me like until the end of the summer to collect them all because we were kids. We didn't have money to spend on those weapons. Not that that was a good deal anyway.
Right. Yeah. It's a terrible deal. Yeah. Don't do it. I've done it.
Yeah, he bought all the weapons in the Love and War update, and I thought like that's a stupid idea.
I didn't know any better, and moreover, there was no better way to acquire them unless you just played and got them through random drop.
Well, speaking of like over the years, you were into it in 2011, and then you kind of fell off for most of 2012.
The biggest problem was just that my setup was not great, and that was, the ultimate barrier for entry. It wasn't until I eventually had upgraded my PC, Not even that. I remember I bought a pre-built PC on Black Friday, which was miles ahead of my laptop that I was using, and then it actually had a mouse, so it was decent. You know, a 60 hertz monitor. I was living in the future at that time. It was a good time to play Team Fortress 2. I was getting back into the game, but there were points of stagnation.
Yeah, like definitely in the kind of first half of 2012, you weren't really into it because over that time, there was a lot of hints to the man versus machine coming. Like before even the teasers came in, right before it happened. Like there was stuff in the files for something called raid mode, and we definitely known about it. We were talking. I remember me and him talking about like the co-op coming, but he wasn't that into it. And then when it actually happened, I'm like, "Yo, let's play co-op," and he's like, "What are you talking about?" And it's like, it happened. It finally happened, and then we did play it. We played on the first day. We played together, Man vs Machine.
We were early adopters. Yeah. A good time.
And you got really into Man vs Machine later on. You spent a lot of money on tickets.
Yeah, Man vs Machine was actually my claim to fame, believe it or not. So I initially started playing it regularly, and at some point I just decided to make videos on it.
You started making TF2 videos before I did.
Little known fact, by the way, the Squib has been around on YouTube.
And at his height, he had 2,500 subscribers, and had a brief crossover with a
NILST, I believe.
Yeah, he promoted your hat giveaway. I think that really boosted you to that height.
And he flooded me with subs. Yeah. It was nice while it lasted, because it didn't last. But during that time, I was getting really into MVM, as I mentioned, and I had racked up a decent amount of tours. I believe 36 at my peak. Which, if you do the math there, 36 times $4.
I mean, there are people with like hundreds of tours, but for someone like 36 tours is a pretty respectable number.
Right, like I'd been around a couple times, so I wasn't a rookie anymore.
And then one of your first big videos on YouTube was your Zero Tour Pyro video.
Yeah. Man, that video, that was something. My Zero Tour Pyro video, for those of you who are uninitiated, and I don't expect any of you to know about it, right, because it was under a different name, but that video, the entire premise was just that I wanted to try to bring everybody. Well, now we have a whole mess going on in MVM. I don't know if it's still a problem, but some of you may be aware of the Taco Bot crew who blacklist people and go out of their way to make people miserable if they play MVM in a style that's not in line with their, metas. At the time, it wasn't even that, right? It had not gotten that toxic yet. What I was seeing more was that people were just being very prejudiced against lower tour people and forcing them to play the game how they expected them to be most successful, which you could argue is understandable, but at the same time, it's a video game. You shouldn't have to take it that seriously if you really just want to play. So that was the entire point of the video. I had deleted my badge, so I, on the surface, appeared as a new player, and I was going into lobbies as these off-meta classes such as Pyro and Sniper. I mean, even to this day, I'm still given flack for playing Sniper.
You kicked multiple times for playing Sniper this past year.
Despite, no matter how well I do in terms of damage or...
Oh yeah, usually by the last round, you have more damage than me, and I usually play heavy, and I'm usually one of the highest damaging people there.
Yeah, it's the metas, man. People cannot seem to get over it. No matter how well you play, they're always just going to want to kick you, man, because you're a filthy sniper.
Oh yeah, and this was definitely way before Gas Passer too, so Pyro didn't really have that much to offer in Man vs Machine, but it was just kind of like, everybody would kind of more or less instant kick you for playing Pyro.
Right, Pyro was not great, but it also wasn't terrible. Like, it was workable, yeah. And that was kind of the point of the video. You should not have counted me or any low tour person out simply because they chose to play a different class.
And that got you like what, 10,000 views? It got a decent amount of views for the time.
I do think it was a significant amount of views, yeah. At least 10,000. Yes, that's actually what inspired the legendary SquimJim, host of the After Breakfast Show.
That's not true. That's not how it happened. That's not how it happened.
Well, I'd like to believe that it did, in my mind. It makes me feel better.
Back in the early days of when I first started watching TF2 videos, which is, around like 2011, there was like nowhere near as many as there are now. There, Star and Germa were the big ones, and you had a few others. Like when I first started watching TF2 videos, the biggest guy I think was Icy Tooney, which I don't think anybody here remembers, but if you do, that's probably like, whoa.
Icy.
Yeah, I think he had like maybe around 9,000, 10,000 subscribers, which is the biggest at the time. And
bigger than me, so it had to be the biggest at the time.
Yeah. And I remember it was definitely around 2013, 2014-ish when you start seeing a bunch of new people really get in, and that's when TF2 YouTube really started, I think, kicking off more. And around 2015-ish, later in the year, I was like, maybe I could do this, I could do that. And then I made a channel, and I did it. It didn't really work out that well to start.
Yeah, of course, that's the nature of the algorithm. But was there a turning point in the game that led to that influx of new
That's
people?
right. Turning point in the game? No. But the turning point for me in really wanting to make YouTube videos was actually the gunmetal update, because prior to the gunmetal update, like, things were happening, but I was getting just a little bit bored with the game. And then the gunmetal update happened, and I'm like, this is a really good update. I really like that update. Actually, I remember me and you talking about that when it first came out, and you said it was trash because there were no new weapons. And then I'm like, look at the patch notes, and you're like, well, good update overall though. And that's actually what made me switch from a demo man main to a heavy main, because their heavy got a lot of new stuff. Well, it got a lot of new good rework, good balancing in that update. And I'm like, well, yeah, heavy's fun. Prior to that, I did, I guess, main demo man for the previous 5 years, I suppose.
But now you're a heavy main, huh?
Yeah.
That's cool.
And not that I necessarily worked that into videos, but the gunmetal update really kind of got me super back into Team Fortress 2. Not that I ever really left, but really back into it. And that's when I decided to make a YouTube channel. And I really wanted to make videos that I would want to watch, I guess, in a way, where I never really saw many videos talking about balance. And there was like forums and stuff, but I couldn't. It's much easier to talk about what you want to talk about in video form. And that's when I started. My earliest videos were those balancing videos, and they did not that well. They did okay.
Well, that's the nature of the game. You see a gap and you fill it with what you want to see. Eventually, it took off.
Yeah, but the first video that really did was the overpowered weapons video, which is a terrible video. Don't watch that. But that ended up kind of kicking off like 2 or 3 months after it came out in January 2016. And I remember back in like January, I went from like 70 subs to like 75 in one day. And I'm like, whoa, this is the greatest day ever. I got 5 whole subscribers. Right. And then my goal for the end of the month was like 100. Yeah. I think it was maybe 200. And I'm like, that's like kind of an impossible goal, but I was going to get 200. By the end of January, I had 1,000, mostly from that video. And I'm like, whoa.
Ooh, lad, let's go.
It was a good time. And when my channel was still kind of starting off and kind of working its way up, you weren't really playing Team Fortress 2 as much. And you kind of fell off making YouTube videos and kind of fell off playing Team Fortress 2 because, real world stuff happens, and...
I also got into CSGO.
That's true. Well, that kind of came a little later, I think, didn't it?
It was around 2015.
Okay, that works out. Yeah, so you were kind of more playing that, and I was making TF2 videos, and so you weren't really into it at the time, and then you kind of came back within the past 2 years. A lot.
Right. And I now have a main, which is an interesting concept to me. I know you said you were a heavy main, but I never really gravitated towards one class until my latest iteration of my PC. It's when I really started getting into CSGO seriously. I say seriously, I was never on a team, but I was playing regularly, like maybe at least 1 match a day. So I was starting to hone my aiming abilities, and the closest thing to that in Team Fortress 2 is Sniper. Although the mechanics are much different, the idea is still the same. You click heads, you get the headshot, and you do that. So I just really never approached Sniper at any point during my TF2 career because I always assumed it was impossible. Especially with not a great mouse, and especially with a trackpad at the very beginning, Sniper was just incomprehensible.
You can do it.
Sure, I attempted it with the controller, but it wasn't until I got decent at aiming that I really even attempted Sniper. And once I did, I saw, whoa.
That's kind of the one thing where, I know I've never really made super clear in videos that I main heavy, because it's not that important. It's not like, because I do play all the classes, I'm decent at all the classes, but that's kind of really the thing that's kept Team Fortress 2 fun, because I do play all the classes. I use all the weapons, even weapons that aren't good. I played most of the maps, and that's...
Gun on a stick is the best.
Oh, it's true. It's the best weapon. That's why we use it all the time. Yeah. But yeah, I think that's why I've never really got burnt out on TF2. It's completely normal to get burnt out on playing a game that long, but
yeah.
When you play it in so many different varied ways, I think that really keeps it fresh. Right. Not that there's anything wrong with using your favorite class and your favorite weapons all the time, but to me, that's not how I roll.
Yeah, I can't really picture myself only using one sniper rifle. Even only playing sniper as of late, I've been switching it up a little bit. Sometimes I'm medic, sometimes I'm engineer, so I do a little different here and there. But no, the variety is certainly the spice of Team Fortress 2. And I believe right now, at this very moment of recording it, we've reached a new peak of players.
Oh yeah, that's true. That's crazy. Yeah.
So with this new influx of players, Team Fortress 2 is looking a little bit revitalized, and we're hoping to match the excitement with plenty of content as well. In terms of what Team Fortress 2 has in store for it in the future, that's yet to be seen, but we can only hope that the devs somehow find their way back here.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have any shortage of TF2 video ideas, which is why I'm actually might be getting some help with that soon.
Right, some help from yours truly.
What? Shh, spoilers.
Oh, okay. I was about to say, is this top secret information?
It is.
Maybe. Well, if you're in the Discord, you may already know who I am, and you already may know that I'm affiliated with the After Breakfast Club. I have been here from the start. He's got a lot in the pipeline and too much for him to realistically accomplish, which is why I'm here. Hopefully here to host some shows, hopefully here to edit for him in the background when he can't do it himself. It's not a total takeover. It's not even a partial takeover. I'm just here to help, basically.
Total takeover.
No.
There's a gun on my head.
Okay, look. I own the place. I keep the lights on.
Yeah, and I guess that's where this ends. After 10 years, we're still talking about TF2, we're still playing TF2, maybe for another 10 years, and 10 years after that, and then we die.
Yeah, wait. That's kind of soon.
Well, that's fine.
Oh, okay. And with that said, we'd like to thank the patrons of the After Breakfast Club.
Like who? Who are these patrons?
They include Cool Stuff, Varick, Captain Forex, Egox, and our newest one, Dex.
And 0 attention.
Who joined after this video was recorded.
So thanks for watching this video. It was a bit off the cuff, a bit different, and thank you for 100,000 subscribers. That's crazy. So here's to 10 more years of TF2, and here's to 10 more subscribers at least. That'd be nice. And I guess that's it.
But wait, Squim! We forgot to mention the origins of the After Breakfast Club name!